Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Director. Good to see you.
Same.
Thanks for coming. I always enjoy your testimony. When I look for a common thread running throughout your testimony, and I look at your agency's behavior, one of the common threads I see is that, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on this, is that in your judgment, some companies in America are making too much money. Now, when you analyze their financial statements, do you not?
Sure.
Do you distinguish between revenue and earnings when you analyze a financial statement?
Well, sure. We look at all things, and I would say that we
What's
don't
the
think of
difference
too much
between
money.
revenue and earnings?
Well, these are all used colloquially. Sometimes those are similar. In GAAP accounting, which is what most U.S. companies use.
Don't tell me about GAAP. Just tell me your understanding of the difference between revenue and earnings.
Well, I can share with you revenue and net income. So those are the two factors that when you say are on financial statements.
Earnings is another word for net income.
Well, earnings can be used for many different things, but in generally accepted accounting principles, net income is what all of our banks are really using.
Okay. Well, revenue is before expenses, and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say, my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look
No,
at
I'm not
accounting
talking.
definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Oh, totally. And I think your
Okay,
suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
I understand.
What are the options people have
Here's
in order to...
Here's what is confusing me. We all know, unless you were playing Frisbee in the quad during Econ 101 or Accounting 101, there's a difference between revenue and earnings. I want to ask about the way you're funded. I looked at Congress's statute. I'm looking for it here. It says, here's how you're funded. And you just won your lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Each year, beginning on the designated transfer date, in each quarter thereafter, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, where you get your money, shall transfer to your agency from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System the amount determined by the director to be reasonably necessary to carry out the authorities of the Bureau. It says the combined earnings, not the revenue. Now, for the longest time, the Federal Reserve was earning money, but that stopped in September of 2022? Now, they are losing money. They don't have any earnings. They're no longer transferring earnings to the general fund. And the Supreme Court based its decision on saying that this funding scheme is constitutional under the Appropriations Clause by saying that these earnings would go to the general fund from the Federal Reserve.
Washington, D.C. What began as a routine oversight hearing quickly turned into a high-stakes clash. A senator, visibly frustrated, accused a federal agency of operating outside the law, questioning its funding source, and even suggesting every rule it has passed could be in jeopardy. The issue? A battle over the meaning of a single word: earnings. The senator wastes no time drilling into the director about the difference between revenue and earnings. A fundamental accounting principle, but one the senator suggests the agency might be blurring to justify its funding.
Revenue is before expenses. Earnings, or net income, is after expenses. Isn't that correct?
The director tries to keep the definition flexible, but the senator keeps pressing, determined to pin down a clear answer. At the heart of the dispute is a 2010 statute stating the agency's funding must come from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve. But according to the senator, the Fed hasn't had positive earnings since September 2022.
The Federal Reserve has had no earnings for nearly 2 years. That means, by law, you can't be getting funded. Yet here we are.
The director insists the agency is in compliance, rejecting the senator's claims as a theory already examined and dismissed. But the senator isn't letting go, repeating that Congress chose the word earnings, not revenue, for a reason. As the exchange
Directly from the general fund is no big deal. How are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest
It's not a
ones that's
theory.
being
It's a
pushed.
congressional
Well,
statute.
I think there's you raise the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I
when
know
it
you
comes to
believe that,
this.
but if you look at if you read,
I'm aware with what you
if,
said,
if you
revenue
read,
and net
if you
income.
read if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas. You can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
From
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go-
right.
is go-
But they've
go-
generated lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked
my
at
point
this.
is every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that
suddenly
you've gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of
happy to
and
discuss
every
it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's
If the senator is right, it could unravel years of agency decisions. If the director is right, the funding continues uninterrupted. One thing's certain, this won't be the last we hear of it. Do you think the senator has a point, or is this just political theater? Comment below and don't forget to comment and hit the subscriber button for more political showdowns.